It's not a bad thing for people to be positive. It's not a bad thing for people to work hard. It's not a bad thing for people to be proactive. That's not the issue. We should keep a positive outlook. We should fight against depressive thoughts. We should fight against negative thoughts. We should not allow them to come in and consume us. But we shouldn't deny reality. We shouldn't deny what's going on in the world and what God is allowing to happen and what God is doing. We shouldn't deny those things because they are negative. We shouldn't pretend like they aren't happening because they make us sad or because they don't fit into our view of where we want to be in the future. Because what happens is that this positive thinking is like a drug. It glosses over reality. It causes us not to look at what's really going on in the world. And the fact of the matter is that's not where the problem is, and that's not the solution to the problem. The problem is not everybody's talking negative, and so therefore we're going to talk positive and everything is going to go away. It doesn't address any of the problems that really are happening to us. It doesn't deal with the fact that we're more educated than we ever have been, and yet we don't know anything.
Yeah.
That we're dealing with the same fundamental issues that humanity has been dealing with for all through time.
Mm-hmm.
Violence, inequality, abuse, pride,
All the cheap
stealing, lying, dishonesty. Those problems are not new. I don't think there's been a new problem or a new issue that's raised up as far as the problems with people's character. We can look back through the literature, Christian or any historical literature, and we can find people in power with the same problems and people that had no power with those same issues that they were dealing with and the devastating effect it had on people that lived in those times. The problems aren't changing. And so being positive about it doesn't change anything.
Look at Hitler.
The real pervasive issue, and this is something that it's hard for us to deal with, and something that we don't want to really admit, because it's pervasive in our society and it can be pervasive in us too, is this. I'm going to go after what I want to happen. I'm going to go after what I want, and the rest of you can have whatever's left. If you want to see it in action, go to Black Friday sale. And see people grabbing for things and treating other people horribly in order to get the discount and get the deal. They'll elbow them, they'll push them away, they'll stomp on them, they'll say nasty things to them over a Christmas present. Okay? I'm going to go after whatever I want. And I'll do whatever I can to get it. And the rest of you guys can have what's left. Now at our level, that doesn't seem to be that bad of a problem because we don't have the resources to get too much anyway. But take that same attitude and scale it from the poorest of the poor to the richest of the rich. And just think for a minute, what if everybody was doing that? What if every human being on the planet was actually doing that? I'm going to go get what I need. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to take what I need, and the rest of you can deal with what's left, from the richest to the poorest. What if everybody was doing that? What kind of world would we have? Something very similar to the world we got. Okay? Now, this is not to point the fingers at other people, because we have to deal with this in ourselves and how we react and how we respond. Because we can say, well, I'm not like that. We may not be like that individually, but we might be like that with our family. You know, don't mess with my family. If you do anything with my family, you're done. You can do anything you want to me, but don't mess with my kids. You do anything I want with me, but don't mess with my wife. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to get what she needs or what she wants, and then you guys can have the rest. That's what I think about Sandra, right? I'm going to go get what Sandra needs, which is really what Sandra wants, not what she needs. And then the rest of you guys can divide up all the rest of the stuff. There's plenty of stuff out there. But what happens when it's churches that do that? What happens when it's businesses that do that? What happens when it's really big businesses that do that? That have billions and billions and billions of dollars of money to play with? What happens when a country decides what it wants is oil in another country? And I'm going to topple that government if I need to in order to get that oil. What happens if it's a business that says, I'm going to make this much money in this location, and I don't care, and I'm going to go get that much money, and the rest of the businesses can have what's ever left. And maybe what's ever left is not enough for the people to eat, or for the people to survive their businesses.
Kmart?
But the big business doesn't care, because they've got a quota, and they got margin, and they got numbers to meet, and they're going to go meet those numbers. If that means putting everybody else out of business, so be it. So you start looking at this idea from the individual out to the corporations to the social structure, and if you look at it, there's not a whole lot of countries, businesses, tribes, families, individuals that aren't doing some of this or a lot of this. It's kind of a selfishness that can be individual or tribal. And the reality is, there is enough resources.
Yeah.
God created the world, so there is enough.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not enough if people are taking too much. There's not enough. But before we go pointing our finger at the big company or the university or the government and call them evil for doing it, let's remember what we did at the last Black Friday sale. Because if we're going to do it for something as trivial as a Christmas present, why would we not expect every other organization has humans in it, to do exactly the same thing? And then make excuses. Well, I needed to because this is the present that my child really wanted. And so it was okay for me to give that other lady a black eye. If we'll do it, we shouldn't be surprised if businesses do it or countries do it. So what happens is now, because we don't have any true reporting of events anymore, we only have this storytelling, then if I can get someone to tell a story about me elbowing this lady in the eye, they tell the story in such a way that I don't look so bad, then all of a sudden everybody sees that story and the lady she abused me. I had to put a Band-Aid on my elbow. It cost me 15 cents. My elbow was sore for a week. Her eye socket really did damage to my elbow. Maybe I should sue her. I mean, you've seen this stuff happen. I mean, I'm kind of only partly joking. You've seen this stuff happen over and over and over in our society. We have storytellers at the news stations, but we also have some lawyers that are pretty good at telling stories too.
I have my own instance.
Yeah. Yeah. So in our postmodern relativistic world, that with this gross self-centeredness pervasive in our society, across the board, in all institutions, then we can look at it and say, you know, we're now approaching that point of no return, where there's too many companies who are too selfish, too many individuals, too many groups, too many countries, telling too many stories, going after too few resources, that we're getting to the point where this is not going to work anymore.